Good morning, channel friends. This little cabinet, which is actually an old washstand, is the first of a series that Franco and I will be making for a lovely beauty center. I really appreciate the style choices Denise has made because she decided to redo all the furniture that she and her husband have inherited over the years and make them perfect for this new project. She already has a beauty center, but she wants to move. She's giving herself a complete makeover to stay on theme, and so she wanted, let's say, to give it a completely different character. In fact, we're already working with Georgia as well, on the walls, the wallpaper, and everything that's inside. So everything is made with magic paint, and even the furniture has to be perfect for these spaces. So I'll take this opportunity to tell you that it will be in a room that's entirely dark sand, so the ceiling and 2 walls in dark sand, plus 2 very beautiful wallpapers, in contrast, which I'll show you now. One is this beautiful one. A floral design that also has little birds, some parrots. It's very unique, with warm tones. It really goes well paired with the dark sand wall because it freshens it up even more. And one wall features this marvelous tartan. In fact, you wouldn't think it, but it actually looks really good. And you know how you can easily figure out what to pair with such a beautiful wallpaper like this, with floral patterns, flora and fauna. You know it because the collection is actually designed to be matched together. In fact, on this wallpaper there are other shades. There's teal, there's pink, there's white. And there are tartan shades to coordinate with it. We'll have 2 distinct walls facing this piece of furniture, one entirely floral and one in tartan. Let's get started. Now, this marble needs to be re-glued, but you should always keep one thing in mind. If there were a skilled marble worker here, they would probably make a recess at the back, insert a piece of marble, and glue it together with particular adhesive specially made for this. Here, however, the difficulty is not only that I'm not a marble worker, I'm Elisa, but also that it's being glued to a wooden surface, so it's attached at the sides and will move. Because, as you know, wood is unstable and, depending on how dry or humid the air is, it tends to expand and contract. So it's also important to understand that you need to use an adhesive behind these marble slabs that allows for this movement, without the marble breaking again. So I'll use silicone to make it stick to the back part. I'll gently remove this part here as well. And of course, I'll clean everything thoroughly as there's a bit of dust that's built up over time. Then, with my silicone, I'll attach the slabs, fixing them at the sides. And then I'll decide whether I want to disguise the break or highlight it. We'll figure that out later. I really use little silicone. This piece of furniture, like many from that era, wasn't designed to be glued or nailed. They have been designed to fit together. This is precisely because, as the wood moves, it doesn't cause the wood or marble to crack. But here I need to repair some damage and also make sure it doesn't move in the future, so I use just a tiny bit of silicone behind the bars. In fact, I've removed them all and now I'm going to rebuild. Let's carry on with the other pieces. I'll stop a bit earlier, because here, is the second broken part. Here we are. I press down firmly. Maybe I'll use a clamp so it adheres properly. Now that they are all securely in place, I take 2 pieces of wood. I place one here to close it off and another here, and with some clamps I secure everything perfectly, even on the other sides. This way, I'm sure the silicone will press well against the marble and it won't move anymore. But it's also true that the marble still allows it to expand, because that's its job. I'll also get the handles out of the way straight away. And why is that? Because actually, they have quite a nice patina. Well done. They're already pretty, and they're not particularly dirty. So I take my bundle of steel wool, a bit of jasmine oil, just a few drops, and I polish them by hand, gently, bit by bit. As you can see, here's one that's already had a bit of steel wool and oil. It's not perfect yet because I want to go over it a bit more. But with this method, if the oxidation isn't too much, if the handle isn't too dirty, you can really get a very pleasing result. Look. Obviously, if I put it in vinegar and salt, I'll end up removing even more of the oxidation built up over time. But actually, I really like the color that's coming out. I don't want it to be perfect. I still want it to look vintage, but brighter than it was. So I'll polish them all and then set them aside to put them back on later. The final color obviously won't be dark sand, but first I want to lay down a base. Why? Because, as I said, 3 walls are dark sand, and later I also want to lighten the color I choose with a slight pickling effect. So, I'm starting with the base, with the lighter shade of color that will then show through in some areas. I use both the pointed brush, size 4, which is a brush that really gets everywhere and is useful because right now I have a lot of moldings, and an Elizabeth brush, a brush that really helps to cover well and not leave too many marks. This brush is truly amazing because with very little effort you don't have to strain your wrist. It gets into the depths. It solves all the problems you encounter when you have a piece of furniture with a lot of detailing. So you might want to load a bit more paint in the areas with lots of moldings and carvings, and you dab and work the surface. Afterwards, you smooth it out. As you can see, I've already put masking tape on the edges so as not to dirty the guides. You can use circular motions. You can dab. There are 1,000 different techniques you can use to make things a lot easier. Something I always care a great deal about is giving you helpful tips and useful tricks so that your wrists don't end up feeling sore or tired after the restyling process. Because it might not seem like it, but when someone works for many hours with a brush, you definitely end up tired by the end of the day. Now I'm going to do also the edges. Obviously, always remember that the first coat should be a complete coverage of the base. I also do the sides so that everything looks nice and finished off. Here you can see the dovetail joints, which shows us that this little piece of furniture is definitely about 100 years old. Here we are, the sides as well. And then I carry on over the whole piece. I'll definitely give it 1 coat of dark sand, no more, because there's no need, as I don't want to achieve a uniform color. But it will really help me to have a light, neutral base, which will show through in the end. I love these made-to-measure projects. Do you know why? Because sometimes I see you at my events, or in my shop, and you ask me, Eliza, how would you do it? I never start from my own personal taste or from what you like, because one of the most important things is to consider the color of the walls and of the ceiling, and if there are some decorative effects in the room. Here, let's say it was easy because Denise's beauty salon had a very particular layout, And we placed this wallpaper on the wall, while on another one, a near one, we placed a wallpaper from the same collection with a tartan pattern, but it's completely different, yet with the same colors. But it's tartan, it's very beautiful. The combination of flora and fauna tied to the symmetry of the tartan. But Denise said that she would really love this furniture to be the color of this bird. And you can't fully see it. It doesn't have a head. Why is that? Because the other part needs to be placed to the side and we need to match it. But I will let you see it in the end, in its environment, when we will go to set it in its final destination. So the request from the client, in this case, is to achieve a color very similar to this, so that the wall hosting this piece of furniture, which faces the wallpaper, has this effect. Obviously, I'll use this wallpaper, this small leftover piece, to decorate the sides. I'd really like to put the wallpaper in the 2 rectangles there, but the color that ties everything together must be this green. So now, with a bit of patience, let's go and create the color of the bird. I add some Olivia, which actually already comes very close to the color that has been chosen by Denise, but I want to slightly modify it by adding a little bit of vintage, which will help to make it even more unique. I'll just add a little bit, just a dab. And then I also want to add a little bit of London, because it makes it a little bit colder, giving it a slightly more modern look. You can see that there's really little difference from the original color, which is simply just a little bit more vibrant than before. And now the color is slightly cooler. If you look, it's more mossy, cooler, whereas this one, in its natural state, is more vibrant and I prefer it a bit. Now I'm ready. I like it and I bring it closer to the original idea. That's it. It will change again once it dries, since it's still wet now. When it dries, it'll change again. I'll paint the entire furniture with this color before continuing with some decorative effects. The color really covers very well. And I'll apply 2 full coats, even if I know I will do a slightly pickling in some spots and I will bring out some white here and there. I want a full shade. So it's essential for me to cover it with 2 coats of paint. Let's go. I'm careful not to make any drips and be sure to use well the brush so that we cover everything. The paint, of course, is enough even for the second coat. Look, it really goes a long way. And here I am, with my trusty Peppa Pig mug, giving it a stir before applying the second coat. I've also changed brushes. I used Elizabeth because I really like it. The Elizabeth brush applies the paint very thickly because it has a larger reservoir inside, so it holds more paint, obviously compared to the size 30 brush, which is usually a brush we use for small surfaces. But since I'd already used it to stir the paint, I kept it to finish everything off. The second coat evens out the first. Look how beautiful it is, rich, full, and completely covering. I'm just removing a bit of excess buildup inside the moldings, smoothing it out, and that's it. I carry on over the whole piece of furniture. My side panels each measure, since there are 2 on one side and 2 on the other, 17.5 by 59. 17.5 is the width, 59 is the height. I measure the other way round, and 1 roll is definitely enough for me. But since I want the pattern to continue across the 2 panels, even though they're separated by the wooden bar, I do it the other way round, so that when I cut it, I can arrange it properly according to the panel. So I take my leftover roll from the wall, I flip it. And now I measure. I've got this lovely metal ruler that always helps me, so I make 2 marks. At 17.5. Then at 59. Now I cut with the cutter and try to be really precise. In this recycled jasmine wax jar, I've put a bit of Saratoga powder glue and water. Why did I use this jar? Because if there's any left over, I can just close it and keep it, so I don't have to put it in buckets or anything else. If you don't have a recycled wax jar like mine, you can also use a glass jar from preserves. This way, every time we need a bit of glue to stick even just a bit of wallpaper inside a drawer, we've already got it ready. There's no need to make it. Wallpaper glue is also perfect for sticking wallpaper onto furniture. And why is that? Because it doesn't stain. You see, I'm now going over the furniture with the brush as well. If I want to clean it afterwards, all I need to do is take a damp microfiber cloth, wipe it over the painted areas, and it all comes off. Now I'm applying it a bit more generously because I'm not just putting it only on the paper, I'm putting it here, directly onto the furniture. I take the first sheet and make sure not to mix them up. I'll place them this way. This one on the left, this one on the right. I start from the top, in the center. I make sure it sticks well. Remember that often our upcycled furniture isn't perfectly straight because over the years the wood can shift. So always remember that no matter how perfectly you take the measurements, it doesn't mean it will turn out perfect. There we go. Now, with my spatula, I smooth it out, trying to get rid of any bubbles that might have formed. There we go. I make sure it sticks especially well at the edges because I wouldn't want it not to stick properly due to a lack of glue. And then, with a damp microfiber cloth, I go over the entire paper. This is an important step because actually, on the furniture, using a damp cloth helps even more. It makes the paper stick as well as possible. Voila! Always remember that our wallpapers are also washable. This one, for example, can be dusted with a cloth, but if you choose the vinyl ones, they are highly washable. I know that this piece of furniture is becoming particularly modern. Using wallpaper has really refreshed it, and this color will be very contemporary, but I obviously can't ignore the history of the furniture, and I do still like these carvings. So, with Rocher, which is the same as the background color of the wallpaper, I'm going to add some decorations and highlight the carvings. I use a pointed brush at the moment. I'm using the number 3, but I also keep a small flat brush nearby. These are the set of round pointed brushes, and the flat ones, this one is a number 7. With just a little paint, so with a small amount of Rocher, I work on the inside part of the leaf. I won't stop here, of course, because I'll also do a bit of dry brushing and work the surface a lot to really bring out, into the open air, the whole background, everything I previously painted with the light color. I like the idea of giving this antique decoration some breathing space. Here. I'm going to fill in the entire central part because later I'll be doing the dry brushing. What does that mean? It means that in some areas, the lighter, whiter part will show through. So it's important for me to paint everything, especially the background, which would otherwise end up completely covered. I've applied the paint in a very rough way because I'm not interested in being precise at this stage. What matters to me is covering the entire surface with the decoration, so I can then move on to yet another technique. I've taken a sponge, there's the surface, and now, little by little, by putting my finger into a fold here, I gently sand it down. This is what I need to bring out The decoration. You can see that a sort of shading will appear, created by the tone that's gently sanded. It's a very simple effect to achieve, but it really brings out the whole design. Look, by wiping away the dust with a cloth, you can see how it turns out. This is the final effect I want to achieve. Gently worn, showing off all the carvings. Look. I go over the leaf, slowly, gently, and here as well on the curl, I continue over the daisy. And now, as I clean, the design slowly comes out. We can then go back and gently refine certain areas. Once we've removed the dust, we'll see them and we'll definitely try to be more precise. This is a good way to bring out the carvings, even if delicate, not too sharp or precise. A sharp color didn't fit well. Now that it's slightly pickled, it's more blended, I think more elegant. Let's move on to the pickling on the whole structure. Remember the trick to stop dust from flying everywhere and make it easier. A damp microfiber cloth. Let's go and moisten the surface so the dust doesn't fly everywhere. I make the paint a bit more fragile and, with an abrasive sponge, I go over. Pickling the edges. Obviously, in this case, since I've used a light color underneath, I'll definitely have a light edge as well. Always remember that if the abrasive sponge is too coarse, it will scratch as well, so for the smoother parts, it's better to use a fine or medium abrasive sponge. My pickling shouldn't be too evident, because I want the green color I chose as a base to be more evident, but I want to use it to highlight. The details of the furniture. To check if we're done, or if we need to emphasize it even more, I use a microfiber cloth. This is the result. As you can see, when it's dusty, it looks as though we've sanded it a lot, but when we remove the dust, this is the result. So you can decide whether you want to emphasize it more, like this. Slowly, check as you go and see how it changes. So you manage the pickling as you want it. The choice of protective coating doesn't always have to be the same, meaning it doesn't always have to be protective coating for high wear and wax for low wear. At least, not always, because for example, I've told you for years that the tables in my house are protected with wax, protected with oil, and yet I have 3 children at home and, despite everything, they're always perfect. So what I recommend is, besides carefully considering the type of protection based on wear, obviously, in a kitchen you can only use a protective coating and not wax. Also consider it based on the style of the furniture, the style of the restyling. It's important, because if I apply a glossy protective finish on this piece of furniture today, I'd somewhat ruin the style I wanted to achieve. So the sense of its romantic, slightly French character, which has come out with this pickled finish, where there are mixed colors, the Olivia and the light tones, the bucolic feel, would be completely ruined by a glossy protective coating. So today I use an opaque protective coating, because of course, it will go to a beauty salon. Denise will still be placing oils, creams, and doing everything she needs to do, but it has to be washable, because from a hygiene point of view it must be washable. So today I'm applying a matte protective coating, because it will leave the surface looking exactly as it does now. So it will be completely unnoticeable, even though it will offer a lot of protection and will also feel very velvety to the touch. One thing I do encourage you to do after doing the decape is to touch the furniture, run your hand over it, because the texture is very beautiful, isn't it, Franco? Like a baby's bottom. The Elizabeth brush, which is perfect both for applying paint and for applying the protective coating, is an excellent brush. I've already diluted my protective coat properly because my can is not new, I'd already used it, and I start applying the protective coating over the entire surface, or the painted part. I don't go over the marble. And look at the color, how it changes the moment I protect it. Beautiful. It's toned, a little more vibrant, because obviously, when colors are pickled, they're stressed, they're obviously rubbed and become lighter. But the moment you apply the protective coating, you bring it to life, you protect it, and when it dries, it stays exactly like that. So it remains just as it was a short while ago when we sanded it. And I wiped it with a sponge to remove the dust. And you could see a slightly darker shade. That's the shade of the color when it's protected. Now that this cabinet is protected and dry, it's like velvet, truly unique. It's incredible because the sanding already made the surface very smooth, and the finish with the matte protective coating, which you can't even see, makes everything absolutely perfect. Remember, if you're a bit of a beginner, the opaque protective coating will be even easier for you. Why? Because even if you don't apply the color perfectly, you won't have a glossy or satin protective finish that might highlight any brushstrokes that aren't quite perfect. The opaque finish makes everything look flawless. So, remember, if you haven't yet had much chance to become handy, with this protective coating everything is much easier. Now, Jasmine Oil, a small steel wool. I've already got a piece torn off. I used the finest one and I'm going to polish the marble a little. Let's remember that this is just a surface polish. I'm not using a professional stonemason's machine to polish it. Would it be worth it? Perhaps yes, but it would cost around 60 to 70 euros. At the moment, we're not doing that, but in the future, you'll simply need to keep applying the oil. It will always keep it well sealed and protected, so it will always feel and look perfect. A bit of oil, here in a corner. Look, even though it appears to be amber in color, it actually doesn't stain at all, and I gently massage it into my marble surface. If you can also take your time to massage it in, following the natural grain, that's even better. Remember that this step also helps to remove any grease or stain marks. I've decided to leave it like this and not make the crack golden because it's barely noticeable. Anyway, I like it and it still shows its age. We've created a very country, quite Provençal effect on this dressing table, so in my opinion it doesn't look bad, even if you can see the crack in the wood, which shows its age. Now I'm going to give it a good rub with the steel wool. Then I'll go over it with a cloth, an old cotton cloth, and I'll show you how lovely and shiny it becomes. A cotton cloth and a good rub. I really work it in, especially on the marble. If you notice any stains in certain spots, like here, remember that they'll come off with our steel wool, because sometimes they're just dirt stains. So look. You can see it's gone now, even here in some spots. You might have some dents. Just remember that they will come off with the steel wool. There's even some old scotch here. Let's remove it and polish. Everything's perfect. I'm giving it a good rub, trying to polish this marble as much as possible. And it will be water repellent too. It will be protective as well as shiny. I'm going to put this beautiful cabinet in its final environment and show you how it looks with the dark sand wall, how it looks with its mixed wallpapers on the walls. And you'll have to tell me if you like it. See you in a bit. This restyling is finished too, and it's the first of a long series you'll see here. Now, though, Franco and I are going to do something we never do, right, Franco? We're going to give you an exclusive look at all the rooms, so you'll be left wanting more, and we'll see if you're interested in seeing the other tutorials. They have already been done, of course, in all the rooms, because we're handing over the beauty center to Denise and you'll be curious to see them. You'll want to watch every single tutorial since you've already had a sneak peek. So this is a bit unusual. We never do this. This is a little room that Denise will dedicate to makeup trials and actual makeup. So when there's a bride who wants to have her makeup done, or someone getting their makeup done for an event. So actually, it's very important because you need the right lighting. It has to be bright. But it also has to be the right kind of light, not too yellow or too white, because it mustn't distort the colors of the face. I'm happy she chose a piece of furniture like this, because in my opinion, it's much more important to choose an antique piece, which has been restored or restyled for an event like this, rather than a new piece of furniture. Here, there's a story, there's craftsmanship, and there's the warmth of something handmade, and I really love that. I'm happy to have chosen Olivia and to have matched it with this wallpaper I put on the sides, because in my opinion, it really looks great. She chose this color because it matches the wallpaper on the other wall. Now I'll say goodbye and show you the details of the whole beauty salon. Let's go over there. This is the beautiful wallpaper which, as you can see, looks stunning once applied. We've put it on our gorgeous petit news and it's connected to this wallpaper from the same collection. As you can see, the combination is amazing because they're two completely different styles. But just look at how well they go together. Also, the whole room has been refreshed with dark sand, both the walls, with dark sand wall and the furniture. These here used to be a dark walnut color, and we painted them with a roller using pure dark sand and protected them with an opaque coating, both this one and the piece of furniture here in front. All homemade here at BEJE Paint, but let's go and have a look at the other rooms. This beautiful corner, I wanted to enhance it with a stunning wallpaper, which you can also find on the elisa&MagicPaint.com website. And of course, it's a panel that depicts a bucolic landscape on a golden background, matching the ceiling, which has magic wool sherry. It looks perfect because it picks up this shade of red that's on this flower. And of course, the rest of the walls are still magic wool dark sand. Let's carry on. In this little room, she'll be doing manicures. Here we've put wallpaper on the ceiling, all dark sand magic wall. And this will be featured in a tutorial you'll see in the coming weeks. Very, very nice, and you really must watch this tutorial because it might look simple, but it's full of brilliant tips and essential guidelines. Let's move on to another room. And this corridor, on the other hand, is completely done. As you can see, in pepper blue, absolutely everything. Here with me, Georgia also collaborated on the creation of the beauty center, and she worked on these projects with me as well. There will be an LED here that will be installed, I hope soon, because we're opening shortly, and it will light up the ceiling. We wanted to recreate this corridor as a blue box that leads us to the massage room at the end. And now, let's go and have a sneak preview. Here, some beading have been applied to decorate this wall, always tone on tone, always pepper blue. Franco and I really worked a lot here because we cut and applied these wooden focal points to decorate the wall perfectly straight. It was very, very easy and it makes an impact. Right, Franco? You had fun. Let's go into the massage room. And finally, this beautiful massage room. Denise chose this wallpaper, and I love it. In fact, I'd actually like to put it in my own home, if only I can find the right spot. Like the golden wallpaper we saw earlier, this one also depicts a bucolic landscape in shades of blue. We chose this one because everything in here had to be pepper blue. It's a continuation of the corridor. It brings us into a very relaxing place, because here you don't need much light. This is where massages are given, so it's only right that the lighting is very soothing, very soft. All the furniture here, even the upcycled pieces, have been painted with pepper blue magic paint, like these two old pieces that used to be wood-colored. We put up new shelves ourselves. They're in pepper blue, and of course all the walls and alcoves as well, everything is pepper blue. I'll tell you more about this little armchair later, because you'll also see its twins, and this beautiful chest of drawers has been transformed. It's become a washstand, and these are the projects I love the most. Because from the practical to the pleasurable, honestly, there's never a dull moment here. We drilled the holes ourselves. The sink and tap were installed, so it's the upcycled piece of furniture par excellence. And I had fun applying wallpaper to the drawers, pure pepper blue, maror glacé on the top, and a stencil that you'll also see featured elsewhere in the studio. And certainly the most unusual thing is that here we painted directly onto the wallpaper, because I wanted to achieve this effect. Not a peeling effect, but rather the look of paint eating into the wallpaper. I absolutely love it. The other pieces of furniture have also been upcycled, like this console, the classic 1970s console, on which a would-you-bend molding has been added. And you'll see it live as well, because we did a live stream with this little piece of furniture and showed how it's done. And here, last but not least, two bedside tables that were originally paired with the chest of drawers have been turned into a single piece of furniture. We cut this part off, removed, not thrown away. We're keeping it aside, took off the legs, and glued them together. This way the doors will easily make room for loads of useful things. There's a very handy surface, because a massage bed will be placed here in the middle. So it's always needed. In fact, Denise has already put a glass top on it so it doesn't get damaged, perhaps by essential oils or alcohol-based products. So it's very useful to always put glass tops when you have a beauty salon where you do nails, polish or other treatments, because remember, solvent takes off the paint. And so even 2 bedside tables, which had no particular purpose here, have been put to very good use. But there are still 3 rooms left. Franco, 3 more. Shall we show them? Let's go. This could be the torture chamber, but I'm not sure. Why do I say that? Because there's the treatment bed and waxing is done here. Anyway, a stunning wall that I absolutely love, with the same wallpaper you'll see here and also in the other room, there's always this combination where the same floral wallpaper is paired with the checked wallpaper. And I love it. I like this mix from the same collection. Because here they're dark, over there they were light, but they look fantastic. This piece of furniture is an incredible salvage because we had to remove the 60s or 70s old chunky legs from it, which were attached here. We removed this piece that was at the back as a riser and used it as support. Here, a decorative would-you-bend molding was added to cover things up. The legs were added by us because Denise wanted it to be higher and a sink was installed. Because she wanted this piece of furniture to become useful, so in a single room we have both the cabinet and a sink for washing your hands when needed. Plenty of space for the most important products, so here you can display products, and underneath you have useful items. And this is the typical old piece of furniture that we usually throw away. But you have to see what we did. This panel is now smooth, but it wasn't smooth, it was like this, it had this pattern. Obviously, what do? We make another panel to replace it. No, we simply removed the strips. We flipped the panel around and used the smooth side because we liked it simple and smooth. I really like it. And here you'll see the mirror, which will be in a tutorial that you haven't seen yet. The furniture from this tutorial is in the other room, a real mess. Let's see the other torture chamber. It's not the same room as before. I swear, it's different. But here too we've put up the same wallpaper and, of course, everything has been painted with Magic Wall Dark Sand. This beautiful console, which is now gorgeous, you'll see in a tutorial in a few weeks and you'll find out everything we've done to it to make it look like this. A little spoiler here. There were 2 big newts, terrible ones. We are in the last room, but perhaps one of my favorites. I'll explain why. Do I need to tell you why this is my favoritone? Here, everything was designed around Denise's personality. She started off by telling Georgia and me that she didn't want to see any blue. Because she prefers green, she doesn't like blue, though everything is blue. That's because she fell in love with pepper blue. She fell in love with this deep shade. And we want to bring it everywhere in this beauty center. As you can see, this beautiful vinyl wallpaper has taken over the room. It's washable, durable, and hides many imperfections in the walls, so I recommend it if your walls aren't perfect. And the coolest thing is that if you look at it in the glow of the light, it also becomes bright, so a truly crazy wallpaper. Since it was the one who led the restyling, we then decided to add accessories with mandalas on many of the pieces of furniture you've seen around, because often, even in other rooms, you've noticed there's a stencil with a mandala repeated on furniture and other accessories. This entire wall will be shown in a tutorial in a few weeks, and one of the most important things is this. The whole wall was done with a special texture, using Terra Magica, and then I applied stencils on top. Why? Because the wallpaper was chosen afterwards, and when we put up the wallpaper, I then applied the stencils. Obviously, I did them in the same way as I did the base of the wall. Everything is dark sand, always war. On the walls you can see some accessories that are pepper blue, and these small pieces of furniture used to be white. You can also see the sofa and the matching armchair to the one we saw over there. And yes, I painted them, but I will never do a tutorial on this, because you should know that fabric is far too tricky to explain, far too much. That beautiful painting depicts Denise's face, and I hope that she'll feel very comfortable in all the years to come and in which she will be welcomed in the beauty center. And a final thing. The cash register. This will be one of the most used pieces of furniture in here. She wants to put a glass top on it, but I've already applied 2 coats of opaque protective coating. Before, it was just plain wood, and it wasn't very nice, but now it will last for many, many years. That's all. I'll say goodbye now and don't miss the tutorials in the coming weeks because I'll be showing you loads of things. Goodbye.